Hello, this is Lori Hendren. I'm Senior Associate State Director of Advocacy and Outreach for AARP Illinois. Thank you for joining us today for this live interactive discussion on residential solar power and just frankly how it works. AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan member organization that has been working to promote the health and well-being of older Americans for more than 60 years. And we are bringing you this interactive event to inform members of what is going on with residential solar power in Illinois and help you get an idea of how you can get involved if it's something that makes sense to you and your family. As you probably know, residential solar power has become a very hot topic, and there often seems to be more questions than answers. That is why we are glad to have today with us residential solar experts from the Illinois Citizens Utility Board, or commonly known as CUB. At AARP, we're fierce defenders and wise friends for over 1.7 million AARP Illinois members and all over adults across the state. And it is incumbent upon us to have discussions about sustainable energy options, especially those on fixed incomes, and to have access to affordable and reliable sources. Affordable utility services for the home are essential to the health and the safety of older adults. So let's get to today. Joining us today for this very important discussion is Marina Minnick, who is the Solar Programs Coordinator for CUB. She helps coordinate CUB's Solar Grow Group Buy program and educate consumers about clean and affordable energy. Also joining us today is Brian McDaniel, who is the Director of Governmental Affairs at CUB. Brian's the lead advocate in the Capitol, and you may have seen him in the media being even stronger advocate for consumer protections, utility accountability, and just good government. And again, we want to hear from you. So if you're joining us today, make sure you pop a line in your Facebook or YouTube feed, and we will do our best to get those questions answered for you. So now I want to welcome Marina. Marina, tell us a little bit about yourself and just a real glimpse of solar energy.
Yeah, thank you, Lori, and thank you everyone for having me today. My name is Marina Minnick, and I'm the Solar Programs Coordinator at Citizens Utility Board, or CUB, and I work on the outreach team. So a lot of my job has to do with me going out, traveling all around the state and trying to talk to as many people as I can about solar and kind of answer those specific one-on-one questions that people have. And then I also work a lot on consumer protections and individual cases. So solar is a great thing, but at the end of the day, these are businesses trying to make money. So it is really important that consumers are educated and well aware of what to look out for when trying to go solar. So I do a lot of work surrounding that as well.
Wonderful. We're going to dig into that a little bit more, but I also want to introduce your colleague, Brian McDaniel. Thank you, Brian. You're the Director of Governmental Affairs, and so you spend a lot of time in the State House. Tell us a little bit what you do down the State House and how it ties into solar energy.
Well, thank you so much for having us, Lori. This is really timely because a lot of people are getting marketing about solar, right? People may show up at your door, you may get phone calls or mailings. So the more information people have, the better decisions they can make. And yes, I work for CUB. I go to Springfield. We lobby against the utility companies. It's often an uphill battle. AARP is a wonderful ally of ours and really helps out a lot. And so I really appreciate you having CUB on this morning because we love trying to help people and help them save money on their electric bills and gas bills. That's what we do. So we're happy to be here, and we're excited to give people good information so they can make the best decisions to save themselves the most money.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So if you're joining us with us today, this is AARP and CUB. We're talking about kind of understanding the basics of solar residential energy savings, what it means, how to protect yourself. AARP hosted a teletown hall a couple months ago, and there was a lot of questions about this. And so it's important for us to continue this conversation. So Marina, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay. We're going to do just a basic. What is solar energy and how does it work as a renewable energy source?
Yep. So I would say the main type of solar energy that people install on residential homes is called photovoltaic panels, PV panels, and that is just a specific type of technology that's able to convert energy from the sun into electricity that is usable in our homes. Don't want to get too sciencey, but panels are mostly made of silicon. They're semiconductors, so they're able to absorb energy from the sun and again convert it to electricity. There are a few main components for solar panels because panels themselves create DC or direct current power. and we use AC, or alternating current power, in our homes and on the electric grid. So you need your panels, and then you also need something called an inverter, which will convert that DC power into AC power. Once it's converted, it's usable by our homes, and it can be sent back to the grid if needed. So that's kind of how solar works in a very oversimplified way.
Well, I like simplified, because I could tell you, when I'm driving to my home, there's neighborhoods that are just truly covered with solar panels on their roofs. And in my mind, I'm fascinated to understand. I know they're capturing it. So the panels are capturing it, and it goes to a inverter. And then would those homes have the ability just to use that captured energy, or does it all go to the grid, and then you get to get a discount on your bill? How does that work?
Yep. So once that energy is converted into AC power, or electricity usable by the home, that will go to power any electrical loads that you have. So go to power your air conditioning, anything else, your fridge. And if in that moment your panels produce more than you actually need in your home, that's when it will be sent back to your electrical grid. So your meter will track the amount that gets sent back to the grid, and you will receive a credit on your bill for that excess power that you sent back to your utility. And that's something we call net metering, which we can definitely get more into. But that's a main way that people are able to save money on their bills, is through net metering.
Wonderful. So I'm going to start with Brian, and then I'm going to go back to Marina. How have the advancements in solar technology improved the efficiency of residential solar panels in recent years? Now, Brian, I'm going to take this from a legislative side, and tell me if there's anything that's happened in the legislature that's kind of given the green light or supported an advancement for support for consumers. And Marina, get in the technical side of it. How has this improved from 20 years ago to now? I see something that's a pop-up when you go camping, and it could run like an RV. So Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, the state of Illinois and the federal government have done a lot to try to bring down the cost of solar. And we've seen it, as you talk about how solar's changed. One thing is it's gotten less expensive. And that's not only because of government help, that's because the technology has gotten less expensive. Now, this Climate and Equitable Jobs Act passed in Illinois. It provides incentives for people to go solar. There's also a federal tax credit that's available for folks who want to go solar. So those really help bring down the cost of the systems. And I know Marina has more details about those and more details about the technical aspects of solar. But just, from a policy perspective, the state action and the federal action have really helped to bring down the cost of solar for people.
Mm-hmm. Marina.
Yeah, I would say within the last 20 years or so, scientists have been able to continuously increase the efficiency that you get out of these panels. They've also been able to make each panel more powerful. So we now are able to have slightly smaller panels that have the same output as what a larger panel would have had, say, 15 or 20 years ago. And that's really great, because you can fit more panels on the roof and get a better output for the amount of panels that you're purchasing. But I think, the solar industry has been booming in the last few years, especially thanks to some of this legislation that's come out, and growth in industry, I think, typically leads to lower prices for technology as well. So lots of things. Yeah.
So here's a thought. For people who are listening and joining us today, what are truly the key benefits of installing solar panels on their residential property in terms of cost savings and environmental impact? So that's a 2-point. How do you save money, and how does this help the environment?
Yeah, we can start with savings. So once you have those panels on your home, any electricity that they produce, that's your electricity. You're not paying the utility for that electricity or anyone. You just get that electricity. And then again, with net metering, if you do send excess electricity back to the grid, you will receive a credit on your bill for that amount. So the way that program is designed to work is, through the summer months when we have a lot more sunshine, your panels are probably going to be overproducing by quite a bit throughout those months. And those excess credits can roll over month to month. And then when we hit the fall and winter time, and where we experience less sun, those stored bank of credits are able to be applied to the bill and continue to bring your bill down throughout the winter, even if your panels aren't producing as much. So if you size your system to meet 100% of your electricity usage, you're able to nearly eliminate your ComEd bill, get it down to around $15 a month, maybe a little higher in the winter. But depending what you're paying right now for your electric bill, that's a huge difference. So savings are definitely huge with solar.
Mm-hmm. And what about the environmental side of it?
Yep, so panels have a huge environmental impact as well. So currently most of our power is produced by burning fossil fuels. And just a crash course on climate change, burning fossil fuels emits carbon dioxide into our atmosphere, and that accelerates climate change. With climate change comes a warming atmosphere, severe weather events, a lot of bad things that we're already kind of starting to experience today. So by switching to renewables, you're reducing the amount of fossil fuels that you need to burn for energy, and instead you're creating energy or electricity from the sun, which we have no matter what. So definitely a huge benefit. Another thing to consider is health benefits as well. So when we're burning fossil fuels, not only are we emitting those greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, we're also releasing really harmful air pollutants like nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, and particulate matter emissions. These are all really bad for our health, for the water, for the planet, animals, everyone. So again, by switching away from burning those fossil fuels toward renewables, we're able to create a healthier planet as well. So lots of benefits when it comes to solar.
So I'm going to go to Brian. What are the government incentives from a federal and state perspective or tax credits for homeowners who decide to invest in it? And is there kind of a timeline? So if you're listening to it today, does the tax credits end in 2025, or is there, a time it ends? Go ahead, Brian.
No, the state has something called SRECs, Solar Recs, Renewable Energy Credits, and that's going to be your main credit or payment on your bill from the state. That really helps bring down the cost of solar. And then your federal, we talked about, the tax credit. And the tax credit was just extended. Marina, what year was the tax credit extended to? Is it 2045? Is that when they got it out to?
So the tax credit will be set at 30% until 2032, and then it'll start to step down each year after that until it's zero. And that might be 2036 or something like that.
Is that 30% of your cost to install panels? Is it the panels, or is it the whole? Like if I did my whole roof in panels, is that 30% of it, and would it include the labor? I'm just trying to get an idea of what 30% really looks like for folks.
Yep, it's 30% of the total project cost. That includes labor, interconnection, permitting, the product itself, and it does not include a new roof, though. So that's the one thing.
So I wonder about that because I've been doing a little reading coming into this, and I know there are some roofs that are built-in solar panels, and that's kind of a new way that people are looking at that. Is that a popular trend now, just to have roofs that have basically woven in the solar panels?
Yeah, I know Tesla came out with the solar shingles. I know those do not pass fire code in Illinois yet. So
Interesting.
That is what I've heard from installers, but it is very cool technology, and hopefully in the next few years we'll see it more. But as of now, I wouldn't recommend that. I don't think it's
so the traditional ones are you have a roof and then you drill in, I guess, the solar panels on facing the sun, or you could put them in like your yard and it's facing. Okay, so let's get to a little bit more of the basic components for someone who is a residential solar system. You have your panels we've talked about. It goes to the inverters. What is a battery? I mean, is that just basically a storage cell of all your solar energy that you built up, and you can plug that into your hybrid car? What is that?
Yeah, so we typically see in Illinois something called grid-tied systems, which means the solar you have solar panels on your home, but you're still connected to your utility grid so that you can still get electricity at night or when the sun isn't shining, things like that. We kind of refer to it as a giant battery almost. But for people who would like to be a little more self-sufficient or maybe really need to always have electricity or have a kind of a backup for certain loads, then sometimes folks will consider a battery. So then you can have kind of a transfer switch, and if the power goes out, then you can use the battery to power a certain number of loads. But I know batteries are still very expensive, so we don't see them too often, or we don't see someone buy enough batteries to be completely self-sufficient and disconnected from the grid. That would be a lot of batteries, I think, to power an entire home. So, but they're definitely an option. And with a grid-tied system, if the power goes out, your panels and your home will also shut down. And that is, yeah, so that's something a lot of people don't know. If the power goes out, your power will go out. That's in order to protect linesmen who may be doing repairs. But if you have a backup battery and the power goes out, then you could switch to the backup battery and still power a few loads for a certain amount of time, depending on the size of the battery.
Great. We have a Facebook question. Thank you for joining us. Here's a question. What reimbursements or tax breaks are available from, we're going to say, state of Illinois for homeowners? There's a little bit of inconsistency this individual is getting from the solar companies. So we're coming from, let's go national wide. So federal, what is the monetary or the tax breaks or savings? And then show me what we have in Illinois.
Yep, so as Brian said, we have the federal tax credit, which is set at 30%. So that's 30% of the total project cost would come back to you in terms of a tax reduction. So it would reduce what you owe on your federal income taxes. And if that credit is worth more than what you owe in a year, it can roll over to the next year. But that's something important to note as well. So if you don't owe federal income taxes, you may want to try to shift things around, or, otherwise the credit is not very useful to you.
So talk to your tax advisor, most certainly. And what about the federal level?
Yeah, so that's the federal level.
Okay.
And then for the state incentive, like Brian said, that is a program that allows you to sell your renewable energy credits kind of back to the state through a program called Illinois Shines. So kind of to just define that a bit, anytime a renewable energy system produces 1,000 kilowatt hours of electricity, you get one REC or one renewable energy credit. So this program through Illinois Shines allows you to sell those renewable energy credits at a really good price, and you get 15 years worth of them all up front. And that is typically worth around 30 to 40% of your total project cost. So that's another huge chunk of the cost of going solar that comes back to you with this state incentive. So if you're working with a solar company who doesn't know much about this Illinois Shines program, I would be very wary, because that is really an essential and important incentive to make sure you're receiving.
Where would one go for more information on Illinois Shines? Is it a state agency? Should they go to CUB? I mean, I know we're putting in our feed various guidebooks CUB have published on residential solar, but for Illinois Shines, where should one go?
Yep. So Illinois Shines has a website at illinoisshines.com. So there you can find more information. CUB also has information. And if you were to call CUB's hotline, we could tell you more about it as well. But yeah, very, very important incentive, I would say.
Okay. So let's go to individuals who reside in, thank you so much for putting Illinois Shines up on there. Let's hold that for a minute. Let's talk about individuals who live in condos, duplex, or apartment buildings. How can they benefit from solar energy? Marina, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So there are a couple of ways to benefit as someone living in a condo. One is if you're able to convince your condo association, you could get an on-site solar system to maybe power some of the common loads that you pay for. So things like lighting or air conditioning in common spaces. So if you have enough usage in that area, that could be a good idea. It's a little trickier to actually get solar to power each individual unit, because that would mean splitting up the solar panels for every single meter, which most solar installers do not want to do. So that's something to keep in mind. If you do have your own electric meter within your condo and you pay your own ComEd or Ameren bill, then you can also do something called community solar. So community solar actually allows you to subscribe to a portion of a solar farm. This is also a program kind of through the state. The state provides funding for developers to go out and build these farms. And so there are a lot of companies. CUB has a good website, solarinthecommunity.org or .com, where you can go and see all of the companies that have community solar offers. And then what you would do is share your average usage with them, and they would size your subscription based on that usage. And you could kind of get electricity from the community solar farm instead of ComEd. So that's kind of a simple explanation of that program.
Great. We have another follow-up question on Facebook. I think maybe the same individual. They thanked you for your response. They said, so to understand it correctly, a consumer has to pay their entire upfront installation costs upfront by themselves. Is that correct? For solar power for their home?
There are a few different ways to go solar. So if you're thinking of solar on the rooftop, if you purchase the panels and you're the owner of the panels, then yes, you must pay for the upfront costs. Some companies also have lease or power purchase agreement deals where the solar company would actually remain the owner of the panels, and they would put them on your home, and you could get the electricity from those panels, but you would have to pay rent back to the community solar company each month. Sometimes I'm a little weary of these just because it's not guaranteed that it will be a good deal. So it is very important to kind of look at the math and make sure you'd actually be saving money by signing up for a lease or a power purchase agreement. And then I see second half of that question is, are there any incentives for seniors to go solar? There are not, but there are income-based programs, or there is an income-based program called Solar for All that actually allows you to do a lease or power purchase agreement with a company to get those panels on your home, but it is guaranteed to be a good deal. And that's pretty much the cheapest way to go solar is through Solar for All if you do meet the income eligibility requirement.
I think another question is, once you have these built, what kind of budget do you have to put in for maintenance and upkeep of the solar panels? And then how long is the lifespan? I mean, are we looking at, 5 years and I don't know, they kind of burn out, or are we looking at 10 years? So what's the maintenance for these someone should be prepared for? And what's the lifespan of solar panels on your home?
Yeah, so there is very minimal maintenance required with solar panels because there are no mechanics involved. They essentially just sit on your roof. They don't move, so very little maintenance. I mentioned earlier the inverter. That's an electrical component for the panels, and that may have to be replaced throughout the lifetime of the system. But those typically have a warranty on them as well. And then panels typically have a performance warranty of 25 years, but will often last longer than that. So these panels have pretty long lifetime.
Very interesting. So the individual comes back on us on Facebook, and I think the question is, there's a lot of people coming to your doors talking about solar panels, coming from out of state, coming, to your front door, pitching it. Is there a source that people can go and get the most up-to-date and accurate information to protect themselves from frauds and scams? Brian or Marina, where would you suggest people to go?
Yeah, I would say CUB is a great resource, checking our website or giving us a call, and we can always help to verify that for you. Another good resource is the Illinois Shines website that we shared earlier. There you can actually see all vendors approved by that program, and you must be approved in order to apply for that incentive on behalf of the customer. So that's really important. And they also have a complaint database that's pretty user-friendly, and you can actually look at all of the official complaints that have been made toward companies. And I use that tool a lot to determine if it's a good company or not.
That's great. So don't, just because someone comes to your door, whether they're reputable or not, just don't agree right then and there. Take the time, do due diligence, do the research, just like any major purchase you do in your life. Protect yourself and making sure you're going into it as educated as possible. Well, we have now come to about 30 minutes into this, and I want to thank you all for who are joining us, asking and giving us great questions that are insightful to ask our specialists here on solar energy and residential energy. Brian, I'm going to let you give us some closing thoughts on our state government. What do we see coming up for solar energy before we close out today?
Well, thank you very much. And I'm sorry I haven't had a very good internet connection here today, so I apologize for that, folks. But I want to say that, just building on what Lori was just talking about, we try to tell people at CUB, you should be getting at least 3 quotes before you make any decisions. And Marina talked about a little bit earlier. It's a lot better idea to try to own the panels as opposed to leasing them. What we've seen is leasing hasn't ended up being a great deal for people. So, with these federal tax credits, with the state incentives like the SRECs, that really makes solar more affordable for people. And we really encourage people to get 3 quotes before you make any decisions. Call CUB, 1-800-669-5556. We are here to answer your questions. We have no financial stake in anything we tell you. We're a not-for-profit organization trying to help people save and trying to keep people out of bad deals. So thanks again for having us, Lori. It's been really great. Thank you.
No, we appreciate that. And Marina, any closing thoughts for folks as they look to educate themselves on solar energy, residential energy? What's a real takeaway before they embark in this journey?
Yeah, to second what Brian said, it is very important to do your due diligence. Never sign anything at the door, do your research, and get 3 quotes. And again, it's the same as any other investment you would make. I think people just get a little scared and confused because solar seems like more of a new technology to them. So yeah, I would just say, don't rush into any decision and reach out to CUB if you have any questions.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Marina. Thank you, Brian from CUB, for this very insightful conversation today. I'm Lori Hendren from AARP Illinois, and I want to thank you, all the viewers, all of you that are giving us comments. This is how we educate. We're happy to be able to collaborate with some of our wonderful partners in the State House and to bring information that's going to help you in your journey and on solar energy right now. I've learned a lot, and I hope you all have as well. I hope you all continue to look to AARP Illinois for more virtual events. We just did something on Medicaid unwinding, to Medicare, to fund and fulfillment. But these are all things we are just thrilled to be able to bring to you. So on behalf of AARP and my guests from CUBS, we want to thank you for today. And this concludes today's virtual event. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks.